Yeah, that's why I thought the hat might be muchly appreciated.
Good evening, everyone.
Yay, Tracy. How you going, guys? Welcome. Yes, it is Wednesday night again for the thousands and thousands of people out there wanting to see every Wednesday night. This is what they look for. We are back, the three amigos, with our very, very special guest, the one and only, the bass builder. He's talking about, actually, before we went on air, he's talking about building helicopters. So this boy can do everything. You want to see, he's going to show his helicopter, what are them headsets you got?
Yeah, put your helicopter headset on.
Yes, we have the one and only Jason Erhlich. But firstly, we have the hostess with the mostest. Tracy, what have you been up to this week?
This week, what have I been up to? So, a little bit of a thing that's happening with Track My Fish by hopefully next week. So, what Track My Fish is actually looking at doing is their own independent fishing competition called Fish Your Local. So we're going to be having, obviously, supporting people that fish in their own little region. We're still working out the bits and pieces about doing it. We'll be using our own app. It'll be Australia-wide competition, couple of prizes, couple of random draws, just to see the feel of it and how it's going. So that's pretty much my work for the week.
We'll talk about that soon. That's something great. Yes, well, everything, there's the drama. If you want to get drama, jump on Facebook, grab a beer and watch the shit go down at the moment. I've said the swear word straight up. It is the world's gone crazy. Yes, they've opened the dams. It is great to see, but the interesting thing will be how long before we all stuff it up. That'll be the one that will stuff it. I'll give it a week. I hope it's not, but you never know. We can talk about it another day. Okay, the boss. What have you been up to? No, oh, mate, you've got the hat on. Looks like you got a chain on.
I
what
know.
What are you, turn gangster?
It's got his salty
turn gangster.
Yep, I got all my G Max in the background. No more gangster.
Look at him.
What I say.
So have you capped anyone this weekend? Got a cap in their ass?
Yeah,
really got that this weekend?
Yeah, got a few people, mate. I wish I did, actually, to be honest.
He's the real gangbanger.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And we have the original. I'm not even going to go there.
That'll be part of the story later.
That'll be part of the story later.
No, we're not telling you why.
It's G-rated, mate. Well, it's actually not as our show. We do what we want. Mate, Jace, how good are you, mate? How's everything been? You've been busy. What's been going on in the Jason Erhlich world?
There hasn't been much fishing going on, that's for sure. It's been pretty quiet, really, on the fishing scene. But lure making, I'm trying to get a little bit in front with the hot bite stuff and just been making lures like crazy. And I just had a big clean up today. I go back to work tomorrow, so I work as a coal miner. That's my real job. But on the days off, it's just been all lure making. Just every spare minute I get, just making lures. So it has actually been good. Like I've still got probably 2 months or a month and a half of work before I start getting bored and do things like tidy my shed or start washing the cars and
you're doing them crap jobs you don't want to do.
No, that's right. There's so many things to do. I'm not bored at all.
Mate, it's the same. This week for us has been really, really busy. A lot of orders been selling. A lot of Garmin units have been just going out the door. Everyone now with this little bit of fishing going on, everyone's keen. Everyone can see the light at the end of the tunnel. If we please everyone do the same, do the right thing, then we will be right. I know Jason came out. Me and Jason had a conversation a while back when this first started, and Jason was big on, hey, guys, let's just stay at home, get through this, we'll all be right, we'll get out the other side. And, mate, looks like, maybe a few weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2 months. But in the big scheme of things, it's not a lot of time, long time, really, is it?
It's only been 28 days.
Yeah, it's been buggering.
It feels like months and months for me because I'm at home, but reality is 28 days. So...
You would have thought I don't think you would have hurt the fishing population in 28 days. You normally get one every 5 trips. So if you went out 3 times, there's probably 3 fish that are upset about the whole situation. But other than that,
because you put a dampener on my attempt to fishing this weekend, I've decided to switch and I'm going to see if I can chase some crabs.
Well, Jason's a good man about chasing crabs, brother. There was a story once, but we'll talk about that another time.
Oh, is that not the lie?
Let's get into it. Okay, righto, guys, let's get into it. Just remember, we've got some Salty Guy prizes to give away.
Salty gear, get it right.
We want plenty of content, plenty of comments. What I want you to do tonight, I want you to try and give Jason a question tonight. that's going to stump him. That's what our big theory is tonight. We're going to get it. This guy has done it all. His resume is unbelievable, but there's got to be a question out there. Please keep it a little bit civil. That's going to do with fishing. That will stump him. I'm sure someone out there will have some little technique that they want to try and get him on. What do you reckon, Jace? You reckon you up for the challenge?
I'll just make shit up, mate. That's
So you have been hanging around me too long. You never get stumped if you make it up. You just got to be careful if it comes back and bites you. That's
I've been writing fishing reports for 20-something years, mate, so just good at making stuff up.
Yeah, no, that's true too. I've been involved in a few of those. I know exactly what it's for.
I've got a question. So tonight we're giving away, I spoke to Mandy today, and we're going to be, because we're coming into winter, a little bit cold, we're going to be giving away a long-sleeved shirt to one of the dropped comments in the randomizer. Is there anything else we're giving away tonight as well?
Well, you never know. You never know. Jason might have a couple of little secret things.
Yeah, there's a couple of things here, yeah.
A couple of little secret things. We'll get onto that in a moment. That's something someone's got to get in there and get some comments going first. Anyway, mate, let's go back to it. Let's go back to the start. So the Jason Erhlich story. Mate, whereabouts did you start your fishing and how did that all come? How did you get into it? Was it on a farm? Was it with your brother? How did it all start?
Yeah, so I grew up, pretty big family. There were 6 kids in our family.
No TV?
Sorry?
No TV?
No TV? No, I don't know. We're just out on the farm and we all like fishing. Dad liked fishing and all my brothers liked fishing too. So I had 4 brothers, and if it wasn't Dad, my brothers were taking me fishing. So I can sort of remember probably fishing for me started, I can remember our holidays at Caloundra and going and catching whiting and stuff like that. But also in the rivers, like Dad used to love his river fishing. And back in those days, it was fishing with set lines for Murray cod. That was the target, but you'd get a lot of golden perch or yellowbelly as well out in the rivers.
Yeah.
And we used to fish out sort of around that Cecil Plains area quite a bit. But he had a few other spots too that he'd take us. And he was a good fisherman. Like, despite, using set lines and stuff, like a lot of other guys used to go to the same holes, but Dad just had a knack for catching them and finding the good bait and stuff like that. And working his lines, like, he just wouldn't put them in. He never drank beer, hardly at all. He wouldn't have drank a carton of beer all his life, I don't reckon. So he just got out there to go fishing, like. So, that's how I sort of grew up and got into it.
I suppose me and you sort of started hanging around or knowing each other back in the early days, and I was lucky to have my brother Tony, and you had your older brother Kerry, mate. Back in them we were teenagers in them North Brisbane catch and release days, and we're talking about that the other day, mate. Tell us a bit about the influence of Kerry and what those back in them early days about the whole bait fishing and the trolling lures, which is what that comp was. How do you reckon that sort of brought you into where you are now?
Yeah, rightio. Well, back to sort of that upbringing, like it wasn't just Kerry, it was my other brother Gary. Like Gary's no longer with us. He passed away almost 17 years ago, around about 17 years, I think, this week.
Yeah.
So he was very inspirational, and we just used to love fishing together. And he thought a lot like I did, and I guess we sort of taught each other how to do it, like how to nut things out, really work things out. So we fished a lot of saltwater, so it was all tide related and that sort of thing. So he taught me to think about fishing a lot. And so that's one of the reasons that I think I sort of got to where I am today. But just fishing with Kerry also. Kerry's a super keen fisherman, my brother. He makes lures. He still does quite a bit of fishing, but not so much the bass fishing that I do. He's sort of more into the yellow belly and cod fishing now. But I can't even remember your question.
Yeah, about the early days of getting back into trolling and all that, how that sort of started and got you into, and that learning curve got you to where you are now.
Yeah, well, I started out probably my first fish on a lure. I can still remember it. We were fishing just a local water hole. It's only probably about half an hour away from here, and it's hardly had water in it since, but it had yellowbelly in it at the time. And I can remember buying the lure, and the only thing that was written on the packet, I think, was barely legal. Can you remember a lure called a barely legal? It looked like a man's 15 plus.
Yeah, probably something knocked off there, but there was plenty.
I don't know if they knocked off lures back in those days.
I'm pretty sure they would have. It's probably there was some really great lures back in them days. You don't see them anymore, like the old man's and all them. Yeah, definitely.
And it was like a little dialer spinning combo with this whippy rod. Because remember, everyone used to say, "Oh, it's a really good rod. It's nice and whippy."
Yeah, you got to have a whippy.
Just rod you could use for it. But I walked down to this water hole because we'd already fished it and tried to catch fish, and my brothers had caught them there before trolling out of a canoe. And I just walked down to the boat, just dirt boat ramp, but I walked down to where we put the boat in, and just fired out the first cast. My mum took me, just drove the car down out to the reserve and fired out this cast. And first cast, I've hooked a yellow belly. All on my own, you know, like, and it went straight into a bucket and we took it home. And I'll probably, I don't know, I would have been early. I wouldn't have been a teenager yet. I reckon I was probably 12-year-old or something like that. So that was the first fish I caught. And then we got into the yellow belly sort of trolling and occasionally got a cod. And we did a lot of work out around chinchilla with the lures. At the time, chinchilla weir was really clear. So we went out there and fished a lot. And it wasn't until, I must have been in high school, I guess, sort of in my middle of my high school years, we heard a story about these guys catching bass. And, you know, like dams were being stocked, but we hadn't really heard much about the results of that stocking. And these guys had caught these fish right up the top end of Wivenhoe. And anyone that's fished Somerset would have probably driven past the bridge just below Somerset Dam. I think it's the Bryden Bridge, I think they call it. And we heard these guys had caught fish in that stretch of water there. So we fished that whole stretch. You know, they said how great it was, and we didn't do any good at all until we got down to this bridge and just fired. I think we trolled under the bridge first and had a double hook up on bass, and they were pretty good size for back then, like, you know, mid-40s, I guess, for the better ones. And we just ended up sitting there casting hard bodies back in under that bridge and caught about 20-something fish in an hour until they sort of slowed down. And it was just insane fishing. And that's where I first ever caught my first bass. And then from there, sort of progressed to fishing Somerset, like with a little 6-horsepower outboard, like racing around that dam. And it's such a big dam, like with those little outboards, it takes forever to go anywhere. And I could remember fishing other lakes too. And when I think back, if I was going to a lake sort of halfway through my fishing years, I'd think, oh, geez, yeah, it's a pretty big lake. It takes ages to do that. But then you'd get there with a boat with a bigger outboard, like with a 30 or 40 horsepower on it. And it was just a little puddle in comparison. It just, everything seemed bigger back in those days with those.
Oh, it did. Back in the early days, and when we used to go to Bundoomba, we had a camp up in the Stewart River because it was too far to travel from the boat ramp.
Unreal, eh?
It was like, now it takes like 3 minutes. Back then it was like, man, I'm not driving all the way down there and coming all the way back up here, so we'll just camp up here for a week.
Yeah.
But it's all too far, and you just fish that top end and that's all you went. So, yeah, that was pretty cool, mate. That's an awesome... Then basically it all sort of changed realistically in them early days of ABT when you started doing those tournaments, as we both did. That was sort of the next step, wasn't it, into that whole progression of starting to do those tournaments and getting right into it?
Yeah, so I guess it sort of took a lot of the guys were just trollers. That's the only way we'd caught fish on lures. We hadn't done much casting. So it kind of made us start experimenting, but there wasn't really much back in those days to experiment with. Like even my trolling lures, a lot of those came through Bass Pro shops. So I used to put an order in from America, and you might remember doing it, Monty. Like we'd put these orders in, and you'd spend ages on the phone because there was no internet, or I didn't have internet out on the farm. So you'd get up like before, you know, so you'd match their hours. So it'd be some ridiculous time in the morning. You'd get up and you'd put your order in. And sometimes you'd spend an hour on the phone on hold and stuff. And the bill, like our phone bill, was bigger than the lure sometimes. And you think, oh, yeah, this is so good. I'm getting like a $2.99 hot lips or something like that.
It costs you $15 to get it in thing and everything.
But yeah, when you add it on the phone bill, it just really depended. Sometimes you went straight through and you know. You just
but that's
your order through.
And in that same time, mate, that's when you started guiding with the Infoset Gundo, the guy who started out. Them early days, mate, were stories that probably can't be told here, but that was insane. That was the first big bass boats with 250s and 225s. And you spent a few years, you got into, I was chartering, I think Brett Thompson was chartering, and Harry had just started.
For Brett, yeah.
Yeah, and then there was a few of us that were doing, and then Gundo come in, we were there with our tinnies, and Gundo come in with these 3 big bass boats and all the money in the world, and away you go. How cool. We were looking back in our tinnies, looking at you guys, but how cool was that? That was the story that was just unbelievable.
I know how you would have felt, because like when I wasn't in one of those and you're back in your tinny and this bloke came past you doing 3 times the speed, you just thought, how cool is that? It was just like, yeah, jets on water.
And there wouldn't have been, I think Gundo would have been, there might have been 1 or 2, but he would have been the first one that really brought in any bass boat seriously. No one had ever seen them before.
I think he was the first. There may have been some flats boats maybe.
Yeah.
But, I think he was the first to do bass boats. He did those 3 ranges.
And then
it was just way too early. Like, he actually became a dealer for him, but it was just way too early. People just weren't ready for it. I guess that's what ABT.
That's very, very in the very first year of ABT.
Oh, mate, I had that same bit of paper that I sent you, like with all those dates on it. I left it inside, but I can't even remember. That must have been, I would have been about 18 when I was guiding for him.
Yeah, no, that was the early days. And then from there, mate, you went in and you started your fishability and you started doing your chartering yourself. And you did that for a few years. But then, do you reckon it was you dropped out of it? Was just life change? Was it all too hard or what?
You know, when you go fishing, like you might have had the same experience, Matthew. When you go fishing and you're doing it all the time, you're getting up. We used to provide lunches and stuff too, so my wife would make the lunches. She must be listening because she's bringing me a piece of paper.
Well, there you go. How good's that? Service.
What a good vibe.
Yeah, she's not bringing me a beer. When I need a beer, I'll ask one. So, get out of it.
Yeah,
What'd you ask me, mate? I remember now.
You were doing your charter and then you got out of it. And what was the deal behind it?
Yeah, well, when you fish all the time, and it wasn't fishing just for me. It was work. It became work. And I was sort of starting not to like fishing because I was getting up to go to work. And, it wasn't just the fishing side of it. Like, it was big days. Like, I was doing sometimes a full day, which was 8 hours, and then a half day on top of that, which was another 4 hours in the summer months. So you're doing a 12-hour day, but then you've got your hours drive sort of out and back and plus lunches and stuff like that.
Tell me about it.
So it makes it a huge day. Plus I was working a full-time job. So at the time, I think I'd done about 3 months straight without a day off, like between because the fishing charters came on weekends and I was working like a weekday sort of job. So I just hadn't had a day off in ages. And I just something had to give. It was either my full-time job or the fishing. And in the end, I decided to give the fishing charters away just because it was starting to feel too much like work.
Yeah, you just didn't enjoy it anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I did enjoy it, but I could see that it was going down that path where maybe I wouldn't enjoy it as much anymore.
Mate, and then you're one of the lucky few that's won an ABT Grand Final. That was at BP. That was at
I'd have to look at the date of that.
Yeah, I'm just actually 2003. Yeah, I was out. We were out at Yellowcool then. I think I pulled out of that grand final because obviously we had the shop.
No,
it wasn't that, mate. You're a good fisherman. Don't worry about that. But you did that and you won that grand final, which is an awesome feat. And it wasn't long after that, really, that you started dropping out of that ABT. Was that just family once again? Work?
I can't even remember. I'd have to look through these dates. I think I might have had
You sort of dropped out of it after that, yeah.
But I changed jobs. So I was working at a meatworks.
Yeah.
And at an abattoir out at Oakey. Yeah, I used to do the same sort of thing.
I've done the same thing.
Yeah, so I gave that away and started working in a coal mine. And with those rosters with the coal mine, it just wasn't as flexible. So that was one reason. So it was just a good reason to sort of move on, like financially, like to go to the coal mine rather than the abattoir. And it just didn't work. Like I would have liked to have kept doing fishing competitions. I would have kept doing them if the roster allowed. But what I did notice that when I stopped, I actually did a lot of other fishing. So when you're doing those tournaments, you'll find that, okay, well, BP, say there's a competition on at Boondooma and it's on in 2 weeks, so I'll have to go fish that 2 weeks prior and then I'll have to go and pre-fish it. And Boondooma could be fishing like shit and the best place could be Somerset or it could be Maroon or Mugra, but you were forced to sort of fish those places.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until that sort of stopped, like that I stopped doing those comps, that I could just go to fish wherever I wanted to fish. And I just enjoyed my fishing so much more because I was catching so many more fish and probably did a lot more barra fishing. It was probably when I started doing a lot more of that because, I was spending all my money because comps aren't cheap to do.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, so I was spending everything that I sort of had spare cash, like on travelling down to Glenbourne and St Clair. They're big trips. It's closer for me to go and catch a barramundi.
Yeah.
So,
mate,
and if you ask me what I'd rather catch, I'd rather drive north and catch one of them.
One of the most, I can still remember now, one of the most impressive things I've ever seen, and I've known you for a long time, was when you decided that you were going to, you'd looked out, you'd been in Gundo's boat, you'd had 3 years drive around in that Ranger, which nobody else got to have a chance with. Back then it was an incredible, even now it's still an incredible amount of money and it's a big thing. You sort of got out of the tournaments. You had a couple of boats, you wanted to have something different. You were saying, financially and all that, it was a struggle. So Bugger Me Dead, you decided from scratch to build a freaking bass boat. And this is something that had a 200 on it. This is, 19 foot long, the whole lot. Tell us about that, because that was just, I remember seeing the progress of that. That was just amazing.
Yeah, no, that was something I'd never do again. I've been told I'd get divorced if I did. But it was actually the second boat I'd had to go up building. The first one that I did fishing charters out of, it was like a full rebuild on a boat. So we stripped it back to bare hull. And I actually learned the techniques through a guy that used to work for Brett Gunderson, Alan Mitchell, who did a lot of fiberglassing and stuff on big yachts. So he said, I'd always ring him up and how do I do this? He'd tell me how to do it and what to buy and stuff, and he helped me out with that one. And that's where I learned a little bit about sort of that sort of thing. And then along comes bloody YouTube, and you can learn everything from YouTube. So I just watched all these YouTube videos and thought, yeah, why not? I'll have a crack at building a boat. So I approached a boat builder. And
it's just easy to ring them up and say, can you build me one?
And I said, can you make me a hull? I want to build a bass boat. And they were all for it. So we sort of went into a bit of a partnership thing and he built the hull for me, and then I took it away. And all the inside is actually made out of timber first. So it was made out of MDF and all sanded up, and then it's all sealed, epoxied, sanded. I don't know how many times I wore the tips of my fingers off.
How long did it take you to build that?
Hundreds and hundreds of hours of sanding to get it all fared out and smooth. And I took it back down to them because once I got it to that stage, the agreement was that they'd take a mould off it and give me a boat, and they would then keep the mould. And anyway, it sat in their shed for quite a while. It got rained on, like the shed roof leaked, it got rained on, all the MDF swelled and stuff. So all these hours, hundreds of hours of work. I don't know how many hundreds of hours of work that thing would have been. It must have, I don't know. I reckon 6 months straight work, easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was sort of over the course of about 2 or 3 years that I did it. And eventually it all happened. I went down, fixed it up, and they took the mould off, and then we bought that boat, and it was a pretty good boat. I'd have another one of them.
Yeah, no, it was pretty good. Actually, a mate of mine, Dave bought that. Dave Nelson had that boat for a while, and he loved zooming around in it, and had a bit of fun, done a few bass tournaments at it. So it's still around. I think it's down in New South Wales somewhere.
I think
now,
it went
mate.
down that way. Like anything, there's things I'd change with it. If I did it again, just different things you change and make different, and
so
you learn things all the time.
Another thing you've been doing for a very, very long time, and it's probably helped thousands of people over the years, is your monthly article that you write on all the DMs for QFM. Mate, how did that start? And, after this time, do you still enjoy doing that every week? Because I know you talk to me all the time about getting information for the DMs. It's a big job, mate. There's no one what I'd want.
Oh, sometimes I hate it. It's sort of, I'm not one. I don't like deadlines. I absolutely hate deadlines and doing things, to a deadline. I just want to do them when I feel like doing them. And writing's one of those things that, I've done a fair bit of it, but it's not one of my favourite things. I'd much rather be out in the shed doing something or, something more hands-on.
Yeah.
I don't like computers that sort of way. Whereas, I can sit on a computer all day and design stuff. I like making things. But I started off writing. I can remember there was a competition in the Queensland Fishing Monthly, and I've still got the article that I wrote for this competition. It was to win a book called Bethune on Bass. John Bethune wrote a book about bass fishing. And I sent in an article, and it was actually about catching those fish with my dad that we caught down under the bridge below Somerset. And it was from there that I sort of thought, I don't mind this writing sort of stuff. And my brother, one of my older brothers, Daryl, he also did a bit of writing for hunting magazines. And I thought, I want to be a bit like him. So started doing this writing, and I can't even remember how it started. I think I started compiling other people's reports from all over the place, but over the years it sort of came to the point where I just ring around and get all the reports and just put it all together myself. And I think I worked out today that I've been doing that for around about 21 years. Yeah. And because of COVID, this will be the first month that I haven't written a report for 21 years.
That's an awesome effort, mate. I mean, I know thousands of people love this, reading that report, finding out exactly what's going on with all the dams. And as I say, Jason, you ring me up every month, mate, what's happened at Badooma, what's happened at BP, when everything was 100%, we never lied about anything.
No, never make stuff up. But, that's one of the good things. With it, like, you don't really make stuff up. You're a forecaster. Like, you're like the weatherman. You're trying to forecast the fishing, and sometimes you've just got to make a guess. Like, things are going to change sometimes. The weather's sort of changing, so patterns are going to change and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you don't get it right all the time, but most of the time I reckon we're pretty close. Hey?
So you can just blame the other people, mate. Blame the other people.
Hey,
Right, so then from there, mate, honestly, we go through the whole thing in this story going, but there's a banner behind you a few years ago, and you've been dabbling with this stuff for years, but this is the one that really took off, honestly, that sort of created its own little monster, was the hot bite stuff. And obviously with the spoons, with the gangbanger, and then getting into your vibration boards and the midgets and all that sort of stuff, mate. Like, what made you think about starting, as you say, you've always been a tinkerer. Were you surprised on how much, when you first started, and obviously you started getting some stuff done overseas, were you surprised at how quick it sort of took off and created this monster?
Definitely, because it's such a niche market. Like, it's Southeast Queensland bass guys is really the market, although it can sort of, extend further. Sometimes the same lures will work down south and even on other species too, not just bass, but it was really specifically targeted at a particular fish. And in saying that, more so the deeper fish too. So lakes like Boondooma and Somerset, where the bass like to feed a little bit deeper. You can still catch fish, of course, at Maroon, but if you went to the likes of, trying to think of even shallower sort of like Clary Hall or something like that, some of my lures mightn't be as good down there because they're really suited to those deeper fish. But it was very surprising how it took off. Like, I started off with tail spinners, and all the sales, first of all, were just done through Facebook and just online like that. And then I made the call that I'd put all the lures into shops. I was approached by a few shops. I was actually approached by Andrew at, I can't remember, it was one of the lure expos, I think, Andrew. And that's where I made the decision, well, if I'm going to put them in shops, I'm going to stop selling them and just be a wholesaler and just put them in shops all around the place. And that's when I started doing that. And the Jets tail spinners at the time, I couldn't keep them up to Andrew. He was just selling them left, right and centre. And I can't remember, Andrew, how many were we selling? It was just ridiculous when they were on and fish were chewing on them.
I remember talking to you once saying, I need some more tail spinners, and you're telling me to F off, I'm busy.
I probably just did like an order of 200 or something the week before, and he goes, I need more. And then the following week, I need more. And it was just like that. He had a knack for selling them anyway. Good salesman.
I was surprised at some of them. One of them, I remember we picked up a box of them from you, and I had Barry Reynolds ring me the day that I picked them up. I'd met you somewhere, or you dropped them off somewhere. I don't remember what it was. And he said, how many have you got? I said, I don't know. Let me check the invoice, or let me check what his notes say. And you'd written on the top of the box how many there was.
Yeah.
I said, I've got this many. He said, good. Have you got any in the shop? I said, yeah. He said, I'll take them too. Can you bring them up?
Oh, what? Yeah.
I just happened to be driving up there and dropped them off to him. I'm like, I don't have any more of them, and I don't know when Jason can make them. I rang you up and said, mate, can I get more? He said, I just gave you more. I need some more.
Oh, no, bass guys just go nuts on stuff, especially if it works. Like with the G2, like I made the G1 spoon, which was a spoon that I was painting up myself, and decided that I'd go back to the G2 was the original spoon that I was going to do. And I just sort of thought, in the meantime, because it's a big process going and having a lure made overseas, like getting it right, it takes several months. And I think the G2 took almost a year. So in the meantime, I thought, I'll just paint these ones up myself and sell a few of them. And that was almost a monster too, like these G1 spoons. And they still are. They still work good. But when the G2s came out, I think there was about 2,500 spoons, and introduced them at the lure show. And I think within maybe 2 weeks, 1 or 2 weeks, they were all gone, like the whole lot. So, and then it didn't take too long to sell the next lot either. Like, it's just crazy how guys go nuts over this sort of stuff. And bass fishermen are the best guys to sell stuff to, because if they're fishing...
Don't tell them the secret.
No, if they're fishing comps, I'm not telling them any secrets. You need to have, like, you can't have, that's a G2 there, you can't have one of that colour. That colour there is called, it's a Wakasagi type colour, holographic Wakasagi. You can't have one of them, because if that's the lure that's working...
You've got to have 5.
Yeah, you've got to have 3 or 4, because if you lose one, snag one, a fish busts one off, and that's your confidence lure, you just have to build the confidence all over again if you're fishing a comp. If you tie on a green one or something like that, the gremlin colour, you've got to build your confidence right back, and get confident in that. So you need to have your confidence bait. So you need to have 2 or 3 of everything at least.
Mate, is there one form of fishing that you really do enjoy? Because, you've got the offshore boat, you've got the little tinny stuff like that. Is there one form that you really do enjoy, or is it just fishing in general?
When I stopped doing I watched Chris the other day, and he sort of said how he fished and he'd fish and he'd catch something and get bored. I don't think I get bored quite as quickly as Chris, but I like to master something and then move on. So for a while, I'd never caught a big Spanish mackerel. So I fished for ages and just caught Spanish, and got to the point, where I was not catching them at the start, but to the point where we were catching them nearly every trip that we went out.
Yeah.
And by the end of that, I felt like I'd conquered them and sort of learned enough about them. I still love catching them, but figured that I'd just move on and try and catch something else. And even with the marlin fishing and all the reef fishing and stuff like that, look at this. All that sort of fishing that I've done. It's even
So what are you drinking, mate? What is it?
I had to get my own.
It's goat. It's
goat. See how appropriate is that? The goat's drinking the goat.
And you know it's good because it
says very enjoyable. Well, mate, you can't
very enjoyable beer.
You can't have any more than that. So, mate, what's the one now? So you're talking about that
species? Yeah.
What's the one you want? What's the Master Series now you're chasing? What's the one that's got to get you?
Without a doubt, after catching all the different fish that I've caught and stuff, there's still ones that I want to catch. But barramundi, impoundment barramundi, guys, if you're not going and catching these fish in the lakes, you're crazy. Like, we've probably got the best fishery, one of the best impoundment fisheries in the world. Like, it's so easy to lose it because of floods and stuff. So make sure you get out there and catch them while they're in there. Like, these fish are just insane.
They're going to be hungry, hey? Like, because they haven't
barramundi.
I was talking to Thomas Hayes from Gulb this morning, and I was talking to him about, obviously Awonga is opening up this weekend for the 50K radius. And I said to Thomas, I was like, how are the fish going to be? And he's like, angry. He's like, nothing's been thrown at them because obviously he's gone out to monitor and bits, and he goes, they're going to be angry. It's going to be fierce.
Yeah, no, that's going to be cool.
Yeah, I don't know if the fish have got memories or anything like that, but I don't know. Like, it's
okay. In saying that, that's a good question. In saying that, I think you probably think the same. Do you reckon people think too much about it? Do you reckon people read too much into it instead of just going fishing?
Yes.
Sorry, Tracy. I didn't know we were asked. But anyway, Tracy's at it. Sorry, Jason. Now it's your turn.
Yeah, go on, Tracy. You can tell the story.
No, I'm okay.
They probably do. Like, I think, like with this COVID sort of stuff with the shutdown, it hasn't been very long. Like, we've had some big lake shutdowns in Toowoomba. Like, our lakes, Toowoomba Council closes our lakes at the drop of a hat. Like, if someone farts in the water, they'll close it. No, they close it for a lot of times for bacteria or blue-green algae or different things. And they're both closed. They were both closed before COVID, and they're both closed still now. So that can be closed for quite a while. But when they come out of that closure, the fish just go nuts, absolutely nuts. And we've had some really good sessions, but it doesn't take long. It's not like you'd think, oh, yeah, it's going to be like this for quite a while. It doesn't take them long to remember what's going on. So I don't know if they've got good memories as such. I think that they're just forgetful, if that makes sense. So they don't remember stuff like, I shouldn't eat that thing that looks like that, like a 3-inch slider grub. But something else we could probably talk about, Monty, is all the different lures. Like, back when I guided was how things changed. Like, one year at Crestbrook, when I was guiding, all the fish were caught on 3-inch slider grubs, and probably we didn't have a lot else. But
they still are, mate. They still are. That's the thing.
Like 40 to 80 fish sort of sessions. It was just unbelievable. And then the following year, they wouldn't eat a slider grub. I couldn't work it out. Didn't know why. Like, they were really hard. You could still get the odd one. So I fished fly a lot, and we got the same sort of results on fly. The following year, it was lipless crankbaits. And I'm not talking about seasonal. I'm talking about, like, right through the whole year. Like, there's just different lures that dominated the scene. Yeah. So those fish, they sort of remember stuff to a point, I think, but it doesn't take them long to forget.
I think bass is one of those. There's some, look, you've done a lot of it. I've chased a lot of species like I have. Bass is one of those only, and I think that's what keeps you coming back after all these other things, is the one species that you never know. You might go out and you might go, man, I'm going to smash them today on this lure because and you'll go out and it won't happen. And you can't, as you said, if you're throwing a spoon, you can't just have, for lure makers like us, you can't just have the one colour. because you could go out there and throw a hot white spoon
Right.
and not the right colour, and old mate's got a different colour than you and smashing them and you can't get a bite. And that's
Mate,
just why bass are different.
I've got a little pot of lures here, mate. That's what's rattling here in front of me. Oh, here's one. So here's an example. You mentioned before the Southeast Queensland freshwater catch and release.
Yeah.
And back in the trolling days. And the trolling days were great. Like you could run several rods. Like one boat could run 4 rods at one time. And one lure would just dominate. And they could all be the same. So I just pulled out 2 of these. They're hot lips, quarter ounces.
Yeah, they're hot lips. Oh, look at them,
You
mate.
remember that one? The
Oh, yeah, the old purple and you got the old bleeding shiner there.
I used to paint them up with fingernail polish. When I lost all them, I'd get purple fingernail polish. I never as good, but it's
Geez, they were a great lure.
And that one there, the bleeding shiner.
Shiner, that's him.
But just say you had 2 of those out. That bleeding shiner colour, it might catch, say, 8 or 10 fish compared to the other one's 1 fish. And that would just go on all day. Like it might catch 40 fish compared to 4 or 5 fish on the other lure.
Yeah.
So you can't tell me that colour doesn't matter. Like
colours
just
everything.
eat. They just eat what they want to eat. Now, with like when ABT came along and we all started casting, you can really only cast 1 lure at a time. Unless there's 2 or 3 of you in the boat throwing all the same lure, it's hard to work out what those fish want to eat colour-wise.
Yes.
It's just about impossible. I've given up. So I'll still rotate a little bit. I'll have my favourites and stuff. But you can't sort of compare. Not like in those trolling days when you could troll several lures of the same make but of different colours and really see which one shone.
And a lot of that stuff, the trolling, as you say, with the colours and the speed and the depth and all that, that then helped you get into the tournament scene and do really well in that because of the stuff you'd learnt through that trolling, where it wasn't just to throw a lure out the back and troll around. It was actually the good guys. When we were young fellas and we were doing the North Brisbane catch and release and we were looking up to the Brett Thompsons and stuff like that who were dominating, that it was a science what them guys were doing.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Brett Thompson taught me so much. That's one of his first lures there. I've got a little pile of things here just in case we talked about them. That was one of his tail spinners.
The old tail spinner.
The old tournament tail spinner.
Yeah.
I've still got a swag of those.
I've got a swag of them. And then you had Prickly Pete's was another one.
I don't know. Is this one a Prickly Pete's? I don't know. This is just some other homemade job. I don't think it is a Prickly Pete's.
Yeah, no, that's not a... No, it's
But it's similar.
Prickly Pete's had a real... I've still got them. They had a real sharp nose on them.
Like this is the original cicada, and like before blades, we used to throw the cicadas.
That's it.
It's got the it's got writing on that side too.
Yeah, that's the one.
The old cicada, but I think this might be a Prickly Pete's one here.
That's a big cicada. That's the big cicada. That's a different brand. That
Is
one.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Prickly Pete's was the same shape, but had a tail spinner like Brett Thompson.
Yeah, and I've got a whole pile of things here.
I remember them Brett Thompsons. I could not. We were in the same thing. What you were saying with Andrew and yourself, I was the same with Brett. We had Yellowcool Cafe and Tackle back then, and mate, we could not buy enough of them. And he was only doing it on the side.
Yeah,
we'd order 30 of them and sell them out in a day and ring him back up, and he'd just go, "No, I'm not doing any. I'm not doing any more for 2 weeks. I'm over it. I don't want to do it."
he was way ahead of his time. He taught me so much. Like about
he taught me a lot. He got me one of my first sponsors, old Bretto. And then isn't that funny? So he was the guy that we looked up to. ABT starts, right? And he was a trolling guy, and he wins the first 2 Angler of the Years in the ABTs. So it just showed you, didn't it?
Yep. No, he was doing a little bit of casting, like with soft plastics and stuff, but he'd taken it to that next level and sort of worked out which ones worked. And
we had no idea what we were doing in the early days.
Oh, no. I remember that first. This is one of the lures that I was fishing with in the early days. That first comp that we ever did at Maroon, it wasn't. It was like a trial ABT event.
Yeah.
And I didn't know I could throw a spinnerbait because I used to get spinnerbaits in my Bass Pro Shops orders, and I'd caught plenty of fish on spinnerbaits. And the other thing one time is I just bought a heap of these ice jigs because they were like $1 or $2 each just to fill an order. So I bought a few of them, and one day I ran out of shrimp at Crestbrook, and I was just chucked on this ice jig and thought, I'll give it a jig, see what happens. And I could not believe it. Like, they worked better than the shrimp back then. And that was one of the ones. Look at this crazy thing. That was one that I think Kerry made. We used to make up our own just on little bean sinkers. And I just found that one in my little collectibles box.
That's an oldie. Gee, that's an oldie. Same thing, mate. I used to use it. They were Rahulas. We're talking in the mid-90s. It was a Rahula, it was a guy from Sweden.
Rules and Nils Masters.
Yeah, Rahula was the first guy. You couldn't get him anymore. You couldn't contact him. And then obviously from that, we couldn't get him anymore, and that's why we started. Then we sort of modified the ones that we made. But that's where it all started with the old Rahulas. That's way, way back. Geez, you're reminiscing now, mate.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, enough of us. Tracy, we would have thousands of people on who want to just pick Jason's brain and stump him.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
what's some of the questions that we got there for Jason?
I just want to check to see if Andrew, do you have anything for Jace straight up or before I hit?
I'll come back. Go to the
Okay, cool.
and ask the question.
Yeah, sure thing. No dramas. So I've actually started putting notes because there is so many.
All right.
While you're looking, can I say, Jai Gilmore, please stop sending me those photos. They are not appropriate.
Is that your phone that's dinging? Is it?
Yes.
That's not all it's dinging.
Oh, it's next level. It's funny, but it's not appropriate.
We do have our Tommy Griffiths as well on tonight as well.
Backpacker.
Every time I got to mention him, he's got
Because
to
he
come
got
up.
tested since last week. He tested me a hit. I said, have you been tested for COVID? He said, no, but I reckon I've got every other disease covered. So
Oh my
let's see how we go.
lordy. Oh my lordy. Okay, cool. So we've got the first one coming from Lisa Craig for Jason. How do you come up with the lure names and different ideas for the lures with thousands of companies out there selling similar products?
It is pretty tricky. I rely on my wife a lot, and she comes up with some filthy names. A lot of them.
Like Gangbanger?
But I don't know. Can I say some of the names? There's
Of course you can.
you say it, mate.
Yeah, you can say what you want.
You're the same, Monty. You've got some pretty wild colour names. I've seen you talking to the guys down at one time about colour names and stuff. You've just got to come up with ideas. So there's Happy Ending, which is a good one.
Yep.
That's a
The
tip.
meaning behind that.
Yeah,
Happy
what's
ending.
happy ending mean? Tracy, tell me what it means.
It means if you throw that lure, you'll be happy.
It's
You'll have a
the
happy
end of a great
In the end.
fairy tale story.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
There's lures like Morning Glory. There's this really I won't show you the lure just yet because it's one that I'm going to give away. But there's this colour here which was really popular in the Spectre. It's like brown and purple. It just looked like hemorrhoids to me, so we called it roids. Just think. At the moment,
Why not? It's supposed to be fun at the end of the
Oh, it's
day.
hilarious.
That's right. Yeah, and it is fun. Like, I can't tell you that story, but I'll tell you another time.
Maybe when we
Nah,
finish.
Some of the
No,
conversations
the
you have
rules,
about
the rules
it.
are, mate, you need to tell it now.
Mm.
They're the rules.
Yeah, come on, spit it out.
No,
No,
go for it.
because it's about someone else, so I can't.
Oh, okay.
There's no,
Something that they
there's no
told me about the
restrictions, mate.
colour names, so I can't say it.
Who's that person?
No, I
Dob
can't.
them in.
I can't.
Dob them in at minimum.
No, I can't.
Alrighty,
I'll
so
start naming people.
we'll go to another one. So this is a bit of a funny question. I think this comes off the back of the intro video that you sent me as well. So
Oh,
from
yeah.
Maddie Black. How many rods have you lost overboard whilst fishing?
3.
Oh, is that it?
There's one in the video. Yep, I think I was helping Blake or Karen with the fish when we were just whacking the bass. And, I even knew the fish was going to eat that. I just wound it a few times and put the rod in the rod holder and thought, oh, that's just going to get eaten. It's right in the right depth. It's going to get eaten. And as I stuck it in there, it just shot straight out. That was the one in the video.
Yeah.
I think I lost one below Somerset Dam Wall probably only a few years back in a kayak. The bloody exposed butt rods do not sit in rod holders well. I don't know if you've ever noticed that. They just go straight.
We're telling the story, but there's a lot of butt jokes. There's a lot of stuff going on here. I've lost the plot. I've just gone
too
out.
much. I just had this thing out the back and I was trolling like a beetle spin for yellows and it flew out. I think I don't know if I put the video up on YouTube or not, but we kept fishing and caught the line. I pulled the rod in and then I hand lined the fish in or wound the fish in. So I got the whole lot back.
We did that with a barrel once. It was pretty fun.
And then another one was up at Weeper, brand new rod, and I was just raving about how great this brand new rod and reel was and high speed bloody thing. And I was trolling with it and it hit Blake in the head as it shot over the side. So
It's high speed.
yeah, real high speed. But there's been a few others that have gone over. Oh, we're up at Awonga Dam fishing with my mate Brett one time, and I was sponsored by Pure Fishing at the time, and they'd given me this prototype reel. Test it out. Tell us what you think. They said, and I had it on the front deck, and we're both sitting down as you do when you're barra fishing, and it's a bit boring. sitting down in my little 4.1 metre polycraft at the back of the boat and just flicking our lures down. And as I've gone to do this big power cast, I've reached behind me like this and just launched it, and I've picked up the rod with a lure and thrown the whole rod and reel overboard. And it was one of those rods with the exposed butt too. And my mate actually caught it on I think it was on a slick rig. He caught it on the exposed butt. So somehow that slick rig would have had to almost turn upside down to hook the little bit. There was like this much exposed butt on that rod, and it hooked that, and we got it back too. And then another one at
Jeez, remind me that
we've gone
give you a rod.
three.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, another one I threw overboard doing the same thing at Exmouth. We had it on the little lifeboat behind us, and I think I seen sailfish, and I just lost my shit, just started throwing shit, and threw this rod straight overboard, like picked it up with the one that I was casting with. And I'm thinking, I should go in for that. And it just kept going. Like the water was so clear, the rod started at like 7 foot long, and it just kept growing smaller and smaller and smaller as it was sinking to the bottom. So it was just like this little tiny thing down on the bottom, and we just no, can't get it now. Should have went straight in for it, but
too many nasties up there, mate.
Oh my goodness. So I've got a question from the video that you sent me as well for the intro. So if anyone's missed the intro video, after we're done, you can go back and watch the intro as well, which has got some really funny stuff. I saw a caption section that you were on a pink, like, floaty tube fishing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Yep. Did you actually catch any fish while doing that?
Yeah, I think it was, we didn't measure it because I was on a floaty tube, but it was around about a 110 centimetre barra.
No way!
On a vibe, yeah.
Oh my God, that's actually really cool. I have got so many questions. So, hold on. Let's talk. I've actually got this really good one. So this guy his name's Nick Brown. So he is from, I just went and searched his profile. He's from Shepparton in Victoria.
You're a stalker.
Yeah, stalker,
yeah,
all right.
I'm hashtag stalker. I'll get onto those.
Is he a good-looking rooster?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't look at his photo. I just want to know where he
G'day,
lives.
Nick. I know Nick.
Yeah, I do. So he wants to know what is the best hot bite lure to use on bass down at Blue Rock Dam in Victoria.
Oh, I've never fished
Smack ice jigs.
I'd never use.
You got FOMO, Moddy.
Is that what was the question? Did you say hot bite lure?
Yeah, what hot bite lure?
It's actually a great little dam. I've been down there.
No, it's a question for Jason.
Fishing, so yeah, I know. I'm just saying, Jason's deep stuff would work. His spoons and that down there would work.
Yeah, I think the spoons would be a bit slow, but I'd imagine a tail spinner or something like that, something that just has that slower sort of fall.
Okay.
Unless there was an edge bite happening, like the fish getting caught around the edges on spinner baits or
they do catch a fair bit.
Yeah, any edge bite spinner baits, you'll catch them on the midget spinner baits. And a lot of guys don't throw chatterbaits to edges. Chatterbaits work just as good on edges, or a lot of times they work just as good on edges. So it's definitely worth considering throwing the chatterbaits, the lighter ones on the edges.
Yeah. So where is Blue Rock Dam?
Blue Rock's about an hour and a half. It'd be southeast of Melbourne.
Oh, okay, cool.
Probably 2 hours southeast of Melbourne, down on that, past Hazelwood, where the big, obviously the big power station closed.
Mm-hmm.
Down in that area, beautiful little lake.
Yeah.
A lot of big trout in there, and they've got some nice. It's the main sort of that one, and there's another one, but it's one of the main bass dams down there. It's
right. So I'm going to continue on with the lure questions because I'm going to group them together because we've got lures, we've got dams, and then we've got randoms. So, actually, hold on. This is actually directed straight for Andrew. So Josh Connolly would like to know, where did you disappear to before?
Me?
Yeah.
I disappeared to the toilet because I'm old and to pull my own drink because I'm like Jason, my wife won't get me a drink now.
Where's Nat? Oh. But yeah, there you go, Josh. That's where it's gone.
So you want to be like me and just come prepared?
Yeah. Oh, you just got a whole bottle tonight.
I can't drink hot drinks.
I've got my thing here, mate. I've got a little esky. I'm ready to go.
Oh my goodness. So I've got another question. I'm not familiar with a lot of the gear and everything, but this is no with like what pink sliders are. So I'll get to it. Hold up. So David Reynolds wants to know, were pink sliders in the trees a good option? Is that taking the piss?
Oh, that's taking the piss.
Oh.
Actually, that takes us a funny story. remember, you can remember, I remember Dave Reynolds standing on your back at a barra tournament.
I
You
had
remember
footprints
that?
on my shirt. Yeah.
We won't go into any further, but that
They
was
they wanted to get the girls on the pool table. They asked me to do it, and I said, no, Dave's your man, so I helped him.
he couldn't get up there, so Jason had to get out on all fours so we could use him as a step.
Yep.
That was there was a lot of other stuff happening that night.
What about the
but we're not
Gin
going into it.
sprint that time, the 100
No,
metres
we're
sprint?
not going into any of that sort of stuff. We're leaving it. That's bad. That's not for public announcement. They were very big barra tournaments, them ones.
That was the highlight, eh? The last few
And
days.
last couple,
Yeah.
that was the last couple of barra tournaments. We didn't.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, myself and Dave, I think we won $700 or $800. It might have been more than that at a Wonga. And the second day into the next comp, we were broke. And we hadn't been barra fishing, so you know what happened. So anyway, we had a lot of fun.
That place brought out the worst in me.
It did. That was the Woodsy. They were good old days. Them days.
I remember that we were doing a bass comp. I think the first and only ever ABT.
There was two there. There was two there. Yeah.
It might have been the first one. They worked out. I didn't even know myself. Worked out it was my birthday at the second weigh-in, and the fella that at my non-boater told everyone, so they took me into town and got me blind at the pub. And I felt so sorry for my non-boater. If you're watching my non-boater from day 2, I think I had a chuck over the side, and it was shocking.
That was the good old days, mate. We used to fish hard, play hard. That's how we rolled.
Oh my goodness.
Can't do it anymore. Right, Trace, keep going.
Yeah, of course, no dramas. So we've had, I'm going to do a filter down for this one. So it is a question directed for Jace to start with, and then I've got a secondary question for everyone afterwards. So Jace's directed question: if you could take 3 lures, doesn't matter what dam it was, if you would say, for example, you just had to take 3 lures to a dam, what would you take, Jace?
Oh, it really does depend on species, but if you had to limit it, like, you can't go wrong with a soft vibe.
Well, this is from Wade Harris, so I think we've had Wade on before. Bass fishing, I think.
Bass fishing?
Yeah, bass fishing.
I don't know. Like, it really does depend on the lake that you're fishing too. Like,
all right, so let's.
My home lake, Somerset. Like, it's easy there. I'd take probably a G1 spoon over a G2. A Spectre vibration jig, which is a clear bladed chatterbait, not the metal bladed one.
Yeah.
And then that's all I need. But for lure number 3, if it was the middle of winter, maybe one of Moddy's ice jigs. Smack ice jig in the middle of winter. Maybe a blade.
Yeah.
I hardly ever throw plastics there anymore. Like, yeah, I probably should do more of it.
And that's to Somerset, you say?
That's at Somerset, but it really is dependent on the lake. That's a deeper sort of lake. So if you're fishing Boondooma, same sort of lures.
Yeah.
But if you're fishing one of the shallower lakes like Maroon, you might want to throw a surface lure in there or a spinnerbait or something like that for fishing weed.
Yeah.
It really does depend on the lake that you're fishing.
Yeah.
And
well,
that's where,
I was going to say.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to say that's where, like, my fishing reports, or even the ones that Moddy does now, like, he does his fishing reports on all the lakes. That's where it's really good, because he'll tell you which are the best lures at the time. And they're more up to date than sort of what I write, because there's that sort of lag period from when I write it to when it's published. So I reckon what Moddy's doing with his online reports is a great idea. Just watch them and he'll tell you what to use.
What to use. Yeah, no, that's cool.
Just don't buy the smack ones. Use the hot white ones. That's
Oh, my
Hey, I'll give you plenty of fucks, don't worry about that.
Well,
I watch them sometimes, mate. I hear that.
so we're going to use that question. We're going to filter it down a little bit more. So this is going to be for all of us. So say, for example, obviously you like Somerset, and we're going to go Somerset and Wivenhoe. So either of those dams. Out of those 3, you could take one lure, and that is it. What would you take, Jace?
Jeez. Depends on the time of year again.
Okay, now. So say we're coming into
right now?
Yep.
Yep. So it's a bit of a transition time now. Like, if it was 1 or 2 months ago, hands down, I would have said a Spectre jig. But now I'd probably say a G2 over a G1, and that's a G2 there. So it's just a spoon.
Yep.
That fella there, if you can see him, with those assists and everything on him. It's a smaller profile than the G1. The G1 was the original spoon. It's a little bit bigger. So it's just as heavy but smaller profile. And I just think that those fish sort of start in those cooler months just feeding on that sort of smaller bait fish until the end of winter, then they'll go to the big stuff again.
Yeah. Moddy, one lure to take to Somerset or Wivenhoe. You don't know which dam you're going to. It's a draw of a hat. What would you take if you're going
At the moment,
Yep.
half-ounce fire blade.
Oh.
Half-ounce fire blade because I can fish it shallow. I can fish it to the banks. I can fish it deep.
I'd have to cast mine from about 8K away. Because that's about as close as I can get with these restrictions. About 8 or 10K away.
Yeah, I can't get anyone.
We're in a hypothetical world. What if?
And the one lure that I and I'm a bit different than Jace, the one lure that I use and have it on my deck every time I do a charter, every time I do a tournament, is still a 5/8 jig head, smack jig head, and a slider. That's whether it's baby bass, whether it's one of them. That's what I have all the time. I have one tied on. I just love throwing plastics. That's just one of those.
What's Andrew laughing at?
Nothing. He ain't bullshitting. He
No,
will pass me that fucking
everywhere.
rod every time. You cast this, mate, and when you catch one, let me know. So that he can pick one up. That's exactly what he says.
I've won tens of thousands of dollars on doing it.
Sometimes it's just what they want to eat.
Mate, it's just a great rod.
It's small, it's subtle, and geez, that was one of the first soft plastics we started to throw, and it's still probably one of the best. Like,
I can't complain, mate. The fish don't know that.
There's other good. There's heaps of other good stuff.
Oh, definitely.
It does the same job, but man, I've got 2 boxes full of them.
And we all. That's the thing.
Andrew, if Marty's not passing you the rod this time, you're going out fishing by yourself. What lure would you take to Ivanhoe or Somerset?
A slider on a 5/8 jig head because you can do whatever you want with it. I'm not kidding. I've learned way too many times that if you try and argue with him, you're going to be proven wrong.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, it's interesting.
Way too many times.
Because my answer would be a spinnerbait, but that comes from a total noob that's got no idea whatsoever about bass fishing. But a couple of weeks ago, Moddy and I did a show about spinnerbaits, and he taught me an absolute truckload about like spinnerbaits. So if it was me and I could travel, not knowing, water, temperature, where I'd be casting, anything, I'd probably throw a spinnerbait on because of the information that I gained, just to see how it goes. That's mine anyway.
Sweet.
Right. Okay, keeping on lures. So this is from Corey James. Seeing that you use assist hooks on a lot of your lures, Jason, what has better hookup ratio, treble hooks or assist hooks?
I'm kind of answering every question with like a depends or something in it, or there's so many variables. I'm really loving the assist hooks. They will get you probably a better hookup, but whether it is a more secure hookup is the thing. Like the assist hooks tend to hook fish all over the place. Like they're so little and sharp. I don't know. Like this lure here's got assists on it, just those little things dangling off that. So it's so tacky. A fish has only got to brush past it, and it'll hook it on the outside of the mouth. But as you probably know, Corey, like bass have got soft mouths, so they tear out really easily. So if you jam a hook in like a treble or even like a jig head style hook, if it goes in the mouth, it's going to be a much better hookup. It's going to hang on better. So it depends on the mood of the fish. So if the fish aren't biting, definitely go with your assist. If they're really ravenous and stuff, then like a treble or a single hook's going to be better for the hookup, like for a more secure hookup. But having said that, most of the time, because the dams are so heavily pressured, I'm fishing assists.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that I like, as Corey's saying, like a lot of the lures have got assists on them for that reason. The fish aren't always hooked in the mouth. A lot of the bites are so timid. Like when we fished those the Spectres this year and last year, you could feel them, and it's like the fish are biting a rubber band sometimes. I think it's the fish actually grabbing the silicone in the skirt, and you sort of think to yourself, oh, it's not banging bottom. It must be a fish. And you don't really know until you get the same bite, but it's just that little bit too much and the fish is hooked around the outside of the mouth that you realise, it was a fish tapping away at it. So sometimes the assists are really good for getting those fish to bite that are really timid, like to hooking them anyway when they're not really eating properly.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is a bit of a taking a piss again, but probably. I'm going to say, like,
who's it from?
It's from Kane Roswell.
Yeah.
So Kane wants to know, what's the 11 secret herbs and spices, Jason?
Oh, okay.
Is that like a... is that like...
Monty can tell a story.
This might be in 2 or 3 hours' time. We might be able to tell you.
Oh, because Andrew's lost it.
Back in my competition days, I used to like a bit of KFC. That's what that's all about.
I saw a photo with KFC.
Competition days.
Hasn't stopped.
You're kidding yourself.
No, I can remember going to an ABT. I pulled in I used to love going to Boone Doon because you had to go past KFC in Kingaroy.
And buy 2 buckets.
And at the time they had this really good deal, and it was for what was it? I can't remember how many nuggets it was, but I did 72 nuggets and 2 large chips, and it was like to last me, for the next day's fishing as well. But I had it all smashed by the time I got to the campground. I had 72 nuggets and 2 large chips and ate it all.
Shut up and take my money.
My goodness.
It's but it's good stuff.
So another one. So we spoke about how you come up with the names and everything. Is there any particular how you come up with the actual colours of your lures in general?
Just sort of what works. So like Mighty said, we fished back in the days when we were fishing hard bodies, so we got to see a lot of what sort of colours worked and which ones shone and which ones stood out. But there's probably different colours around today, but it's all trial and error. So before I release anything, it all gets flogged pretty well. If I don't know it's already going to work, it'll get a bit of use, and I'll just see how the fish respond to it.
Yeah.
So tested. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is quite specific. I think they're learning to go a little bit more specific, our watchers. So Dion Robertson wants to know your favourite colour lure in Wivenhoe on schooled bass on a sunny day. and then a cloudy. Okay, so we got that straight. We go on a sunny day, and then on a cloudy day, and then on a darker day. So we start off with Wivenhoe schooled bass on a sunny day. What favourite colour?
What's a guided charter worth, Jason?
Yeah, I just throw a silver one every day, like a chrome silver holographic colour every day. No, let me think about that for a second. We've had really good success on green lures in Wivenhoe. I don't know what it is. Like Blake was fishing. Like Blake's my son, and he's like a little fellow. We were fishing. I was fishing with Lee Parkhouse and Blake, and that particular day, he just handed us our ass on a green spoon, like it was green and chrome. And that would have been like not so much a sunny day, Dion, but when you get those really windy days and it causes the same effect as a cloudy day. So your water gets all rippled and stuff. So the sun's just on those calm sunny days, the water just belts straight in and it burns the fish's eyeballs out because they don't have eyelids. But when the water's all diffused and ripply, it's the same as fishing a cloudy day. It's darker down there. And that's why, like you might fish Wivenhoe and do really good in the morning and then have a hot session in the afternoon. But in the middle of those sunny days, the fish are really hard to catch. It's just because it's so bright. And I guess they can see stuff better too, and that might sort of turn them off. Like, I'm not eating that. It doesn't look right, when they can see better in the middle of the day. So, but green lures, like the green was a really good standout on one of those really rough days and has been many times since. Otherwise, I just use chrome and white, like chrome silver and white and chrome.
Yeah.
Chrome and silver one here.
Yeah. So while I'm still trying to, as I said, I've got so many questions for you. It's crazy. While I'm trying to load this one, another one from, do you know Troy Yates quite well?
No.
Okay, because he's got so many.
Been taking the piss too.
There was a couple of chicken nuggets. Like he only smashed 72 of 105 down at Glenbourne, that sort of thing. But he wants to know how many times has Jason beat Motty in a competition?
Not as many as what Motty's beat Jason, put it that way.
I don't know.
It's been pretty simple.
I don't know, Motty. I don't know, like there's guys that I probably went there and thought, I really want to beat that fella, but I don't know, Motty, like, I don't know if you were ever really one of them, like you always just try to do good for yourself, and competitions for me were just sort of more about competing against the fish. And
probably in them early days it was a lot different. It was a lot different mindset. We actually went to comps to get away from work.
I thought you were going to say wives then.
Yeah, it starts with a W.
And starts with W. Both starts with W. So we would put it this way. We probably all come from a different background. So when we were on the water, it was like on the footy field. You wanted to take the guy's head off. You wanted to beat him, whatever you wanted to do. As soon as you got off the water, you'd be sitting having a beer going and talking about the footy or something else. That's sort of what it was back then, wasn't it, Jace? It was competitive, but not
There's a lot of fighting and like that bad rivalry. Like I know that there's been stages sort of in the fishing competition world where people have blues and fight between one another. I don't think it was too bad back in our days. Like, everyone seemed to get on pretty good, and maybe it was because we were still learning and there was so much to learn sort of from each other. So you're always keen to know, like, if someone beats you,
That's a fair point.
bloody upset him. You wanted to know how he beat you. So
Yeah. What lure are you using, mate? Tell us.
Yeah,
and then,
like, you wanna
and
know,
then
like,
someone would
to
win a
make
comp
yourself
on it.
you want to make yourself a better fisherman, I suppose.
Yeah.
And that's a really good point. Back in them days, we were all learning, and if somebody went and smashed them on something, the next day you'd be ringing them up. What were you using? Oh, I was using this, and then you'd go out and buy 30 of them, and you go to the next comp and you'd throw it, and it wouldn't work, and someone would have something else.
Yeah,
It went from there.
we were pretty. We had a bunch of guys that used to fish ABTs from Toowoomba, and we were really sort of sharing, I think, like in what we were using, like in techniques and all that sort of stuff. I think we shared a lot of information between each other, and it was good.
Yeah.
You can't always work stuff out yourself.
No,
definitely not.
You do need a helping hand, hey, Moddy. Anyway, so coming to another question. A lot of people seem to want to go head to head with you, Moddy. So a question is, so last week we had a Chris George versus a potentially Moddy out on the water. Another question's come through of Moddy and Jace. Would you guys be up to doing something similar when obviously all this COVID is over? Going up as a fun friend
cards for a little while.
battle.
Actually, that we had that conversation a couple of years ago, didn't we?
Did
Yeah,
you?
no, we did. We still haven't done it. We should have, but we haven't.
It just doesn't happen. But yeah, it was a conversation with a little bit of BS going behind the scenes.
Stop making lures, Moddy, and we
Yeah,
went.
Me and Jason talked about. You know what? Jason rang me up, and then we were talking about something. He goes, you know what? We should go out on the water and just have a fish, and then that way let everyone bitch and moan behind the scenes, and it'll be funny as. And I said, man, let's do it. And we sort of never got around, but. It could be something. The world's changed. Well, it could be something that I'd love to do.
Honestly, you've got me involved now, and Jason made comment, was like, "You don't miss anything, do you?" When I was on that phone, I was like, "Oh, I need that list that you send to Moddy," and he was like, "Oh, like you don't miss anything." So yeah, I can make that happen. So we get Chris George, sure, Callum Munro. We'll just get all the people that we've got on the show, and we'll just like every week belch it out, Moddy.
It'd be cool. I actually enjoy it because. It'd be like we're doing now, but out on the water, and it'd be friendly. It'd be rivalry. He'd want to win. I'd want to win, and it'd be full on. But then afterwards, you could sort of sit back and have a beer because that's what it used to be like.
Yeah.
And that came from that whole playing sport days of when we were all younger, playing footy and cricket and all that sort of stuff. So.
Yeah.
And that'd be cool. I'm keen. I'm keen. Let's go to Somerset this weekend. It'll be great. We'll both get $1,000 fine. And
can we say it's for work or something?
I can. You can't. You gave up your charter. Oh, have you still got your ticket? You probably would have.
No, they changed all that, so I need to renew mine.
I still can, so you never know. I might go down to Somerset and just stir everyone up.
I could go on a charter with you.
You could, but I'm not going down there.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a rest until I ease up those restrictions a bit more. I think.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. Sounds like a plan to me.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of questions about. Now we're moving into. I'll still ask questions about lures and everything, but I want to go into some of the dam stuff now. So I've got some specifics and some overall. So everyone is obviously keen for Wivenhoe by the looks of it. They want to know what do you think the bass would be doing in Wivenhoe at this time of year?
At this time of year?
Yeah.
I think they'd still be a little bit hard to find. So those big schools that Wivenhoe is sort of known for out on those big open flats, they don't tend to turn up. They're normally a little bit later than Somerset fish. So Somerset fish can turn up late July, sort of August sort of time. So those fish sort of late August, September, the big schools. So that makes them harder to find, but they will be around edges. Like edges are always a pretty safe bet. You'll get a mixture of small fish and big fish all around the edges of the lake. So that Billy's Bay sort of area is a pretty good area to have a look at if you launch from Billy's, if you're able to get there. Not necessarily like those banks that just come down and are really steep, like those steep rock walls that just drop straight down into the water. They look so fishy, but they're not always the fishiest spots unless they sort of drop down and then they flatten out and have a nice little ledge before they drop into deeper water again. We've had some good success on those when there's a ledge, but it's sort of those medium tapering sort of banks near those sort of steeper banks that we do good off when we're fishing edges. And that's just throwing spinnerbaits, chatterbaits and lipless crankbaits. If you find schoolfish, you might switch it up and go to like Moddy's blades or ice jigs and even soft plastics on those sort of schoolfish in the shallower water under 20 feet. I'm not too sure that there'd be too many out on the flats just yet. I don't know where. I still don't know where those fish go. I think that a lot of those schooling fish actually, because we watched them one year, they moved from out on the flats at Billy's Bay, and we slowly watched them move all the way up to the buoy line where you're not allowed to go past. And there's a couple of little island humps out there. We caught them there last, and then a week or two later there was bugger all, and we didn't see them again for that year. But you could almost watch them move the whole way up the dam. So they moved probably maybe 4 or 5K, 4K, I guess, over the course of about 3 months, and then they just disappeared. So it makes you wonder if there's so much dam up there that's like
there's half a Somerset that you can't fish if you look at it that way.
You can't even go into.
You wouldn't know how many humps or bumps or what's up there. Yep. It'd be just let me up there, SEQ Water, if you're listening and you want to make everything good, just let me up there. Just let me up there one or 2 weeks. We can work something out, and me and Jason will go up there, and that's where we'll run the comp. Imagine the publicity you'll get. It'd be unbelievable.
Yeah, it would be. So,
and the hate mail that we'll get.
So we're expecting a cold snap coming through this weekend. Looks like it's already started in South Australia. It's going to move up. Comparable to, obviously we haven't been out on fish, but you guys know the dams year on year and how things change. Do we normally have a cold snap coming through at this time of year, and how's it going to affect the fish?
Yeah, you can always sort of say around that Anzac Day time. Like Anzac Day's always been known for, in our area, the first frost can be around Anzac Day. See ya, Andrew.
See you, Andrew. He's obviously involved in the conversation.
Grandpa platter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it tends to get cold now, and that will change the fishing, but it won't be instant. Like fish sort of go through a transition. Like the water's in the lakes, it holds a core temperature. So just because it's a cold day doesn't mean that the water instantly changes temperature. It takes a little while for that to happen. So it takes a while for fish to change their patterns. So they probably have already started, like over the last month, changing. I don't know about your lakes up there, Monty, but I know our lake down here, like Somerset, Crestbrook and all those, like the Bass Lakes, that is, they would have certainly started changing. And like, as I said, you couldn't go wrong. If you're throwing a chatterbait or one of those spectres, you're just braining the fish.
Yeah, those fish will go. Obviously, those
spoons and plastics, I think.
Them fish will go into that transition where they'll start going in from that shallow to that semi, not deep, like middle of winter, but they'll be in that 20, 24 foot, maybe 15, just getting ready to start moving into the deep. That's when you can start catching them on that stuff. And as you said, the thing is you need 3 or 4 weeks of cold weather for that core temperature of that dam to slowly start dropping where those fish feel like they need to start moving.
Having said that, I know you talk about it a lot, is like changes, like those southeast changes. You've never been a fan of that southeasterly?
So as soon as you get a southeasterly, it drops them to the bottom. So if you've got fish in 20 foot, they'll go down at where the bottom is. If the bottom's 30 feet, that's where they'll sit. It's something that I've noticed over the last 25, 30 years, that whatever the wind direction, other wind direction, it doesn't really make a difference. Southeasterly, it definitely drives them deep, and you can catch them. You just they will not travel as far. They tend to go and sit on the bottom and so.
I think they'll always bite better in a northerly or something like that.
Definitely, yeah.
But to me, like if you've got a southeasterly that rolls in, and you're planning a fishing trip on, say it comes in midweek and you're planning a fishing trip on the weekend, and it's been there for a few days, those fish sort of. Well, what happens is, like, when you get those barometric pressure changes, those fish have got those big air bladders, like they're nearly the size of a beer can inside of them. That's, all affected by barometric change. So when they get time to adjust to sudden changes and stuff, if it's been the same wind for 3 days and the shittest of conditions for 3 or 4 days, it doesn't worry me. Like normally those fish have adjusted, I find, and, you can come back with you. Like they're not as hard as those first couple of days into those seas.
No, definitely.
Yeah. So I have another question, and this is closer to my home in central Queensland. So this is from Becky Jensen. She lives in the region. Her closest dams at the moment are Kenya or Waruma. So which dam in the conditions that are coming up would you guys suggest to go to?
I haven't fished Waruma for years. It's been years and years. It's actually been since the floods. I haven't fished it since the big floods when I lost a lot of their barramundi. But I have had some really good bass sessions there. It's got a soft spot. So if you were confident that you could read your sounder and go and find fish, which will be a challenge at Waruma, you'll probably catch the shit out of them there because they just don't see the same pressure that they do at some of the other lakes. Kenya is also the same. It doesn't have a hell of a lot of pressure. The fish are generally easier to find in Kenya. There seems to be a lot more of them and more spread out. So Kenya is always going to be an easier option, but if you're prepared to read your sounder and go looking for those fish, you'd have some mind-blowing sessions at Waruma. They should just be the dumbest things that eat anything you throw at them when you find them.
Yeah, and you're agreeing to that,
Exactly.
Motty? That's what you reckon too?
Some of the biggest fish I've ever caught was 2 or 3 years ago when we'd actually done a video called, put it up, called Whacking the Rumour. We were catching fish that were 50, 57, 58 to the fork,
Jeez.
60 overall, and I'm not talking one, I'm talking 15 or 20 myself. And
Were they dumb fish?
And I'd never seen fish hit so hard. They would just spinnerbait, throw into banks, and they would just and I'm not talking one, I'm talking 50 that were just massive. They are some of the biggest fish in that dam. Well, it's just incredible.
I talked to one of my mates and his old man, that was their go-to haunt. Every year they'd do a Waruma trip, and even after all the floods, they still went. And for a little while there, they didn't catch fish. But going back, like even probably 2000 and what are we now? Probably 2014, 2015 they were going and they were talking about trolling jackals. So they just had a jackal out the back and they're trolling through a few trees at Waruma and they caught a fish. And these are old guys, like in their 60s and 70s, that are probably fishing. They might have braid on, they might have mono, I don't know, but they just sat there and cast their jackals. And I think between a couple of boats, they caught 150 odd fish over 2 or 3 days. So it just goes to show how good the fishing can be. But they found the fish. They weren't trolling, they found them. Mm-hmm. There'd be a lot of barren water in that lake.
There's a lot of water. It's a big dam.
You won't catch fish. Yeah,
people don't realise how big it is.
Be prepared to go looking in that place.
Yeah.
Kenya is the place. If you just want to catch an easy fish, go to Kenya.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Waruma's probably got the better fishing.
So, I pressed the wrong button. Oh my gosh. We'll move. Sorry, give me a second. It's just taken a smidge. So we've got some, not so much dam or deal with bits and pieces. This is from Lisa Craig. So she wants to know from all of us, for us to answer each of it, who's inspired us as we were growing up or even now to love fishing as much as we do. So, Jace, who's inspired? Who's one of your biggest inspirations?
Probably right back at the start, before I even started fishing much, was probably Rod Harrison, just with his videos and his content that he had. And then from then on, maybe Neil Schiltz, Brett Thompson, guys like that were really early pioneers. Well, they were way ahead of me when I sort of first started fishing. I was only young. And then my brother Gary, just fishing with him and the way we used to nut stuff out, sit down and nut stuff out and really plan the way we were going to fish. We just didn't go and fish and say, we'll go and see what we catch. We're going to catch this and we need to do it this way. So that's probably the most influential for me.
Yeah. What about you, Motty?
I'm going to do an Andrew break.
It's probably a bit like Jace. Rod Harrison was a big, which I actually helped him fish with a fair bit. Rod Harrison was a legend when I first started. Then, I suppose, personally, my brother, Tony, who was, he was in answer and president of the clubs and all that, so I did a lot with him. And then I suppose the other guy, when it come to tournaments, the guy who I really nutted a lot of stuff out and was a great inspiration, taught me a lot about the mental side, not so much the fishing, was John Schofield. Me and Sco were mates for a long time, and all that success I had for all those years was a lot to do with him, and it wasn't about the fishing side, it was the mental side, just little things of don't worry about what everyone else is doing, just worry about what you're doing. Little things like that helped me, win a lot of tournaments and doing that. So they'd be the three for me.
Yeah. What about you, Andrew?
Very similar to Jason and Matthew on some aspects, but probably a completely and utterly different experience when you look at it in other ways. my brother and I spent a lot of time fishing, and everything that I probably value in fishing has probably come from my brother. I've enjoyed the time that I've spent fishing with my brother more than I have with anybody else. I've had a lot more fun doing it. But learning fishing, understanding fishing and what it's all about, I've probably had a backwards experience in that respect to Jason and Matthew, in that Matthew's probably taught me or shown me the most in that regard. And how I've been able to learn from Matthew is probably different to how everybody else probably gets the opportunity too. He's given me the time and the grace to show not his knowledge on how to fish or why you fish or what you do to fish, but how to do it enjoying it. And to have that experience with someone with that knowledge on how you actually go about successfully fishing. But they're not trying to teach you how to successfully fish. They're trying to teach you about why you go fishing. I think it's changed my perspective a lot on fishing itself. It's shown me why people might think they would want to improve fishing, why they'd want to get involved with it, how you can engage with people a little more with it, how fishing helps people, why fishing's an escape for people.
Yeah.
They've been things that I've learned from Matthew more than I have about going out and actually how to hook a fish. That's not even really been a part of what the time that I've spent with him. Fishing has been about it. I reckon I've probably spent 15 minutes of my time fishing with Matthew about that, and probably many, many, many weeks on the alternatives, and I've appreciated that side of it. So definitely my brother with why I'd want to fish,
Yeah.
and then Matthew for why everybody else gets to or wants to go fishing.
Yeah, no, that's cool. For me,
Grace, what about you?
For me, like I'm a little bit different than everyone else. So I didn't actually start fishing until I
You
moved.
just worked that out.
Shut up. Until I moved to the territory. So I was in my early 20s. Like, moving to the territory completely changed the type of person I am. Like, a lot of people say that I'm a bogan now, I'm outspoken. I never used to be like that. Like, friends that I grew up in school was like, who's this chick? You're getting on a quad, you're going fishing, you're hunting and all that sort of thing. Like, what has the territory done to you? But I remember meeting Shane Conpain up in the territory many years ago, and he's an absolute top bloke, and his passion about fishing and the way he describes things. And then I said to my mate, because my birthday was coming up, and he was like, what do you want for your birthday? And I'm like, I want a fishing rod. And he's like, what the F is wrong with you, sort of thing. And I was like, I was at the pub and I met this fella, and he was talking about fishing and all different bits and pieces and things, and his passion, and then I guess like learning stuff as well, like as I've gone through, like my housemate Jared, he teaches me so much. Like he does tell me to be quiet a lot on the boat, but just like, because he researches and I know I'm called the baby elephant on the boat. Stop slamming that door, stop throwing that rod. Do you have to be that loud moving from the back to the front of the boat? But he has taught me a lot when it comes to fishing. So then probably my two biggest is, meeting Shane Conpain and becoming mates with him up there and learning his passion, and then techniques and different things would have to be like my housemate Jared, who I fish a lot with, sort of thing. So yeah,
sweet. Couple more questions and then we'll be time to wrap it up.
I know, right? I know. This is actually a really good one. So we're going back to, this is from Ben Durkin. So up north from Ben Durkin. He's like,
Benny?
In a lot of fishing, it seems like what's old is new again. So things that you guys used years ago are coming back. What do you think from the past will come back in a lure-wise? What's our next biggest hit?
Oh, for me, I don't think there's too many things left to come back. I think it's going to be, I've got something new that I want to do, but it cost me a shitload of money. And with all this COVID stuff, I'm not game to spend it and do it. But I don't know, but it's exactly right. Like tail spinners came back, blades blades have come back a little bit, and spoons have come back. I don't know what's going to be next.
Yeah.
G'day Benny too, by the way. What I do think is that we've only just scratched, like I know Benny does a lot of barra fishing. I think we've only just scratched the surface of the barra fishing. Like there's going to be a lot of new stuff there still.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So this question, we're talking about a bass a lot and everything, but I do have a couple of questions coming from the Barra guys. So obviously a Wonga is opening up this weekend, so we're going to be specific to Wonga. So they want to know go-to lure in a Wonga dam for Barra impoundments. Well, Chris Seeger's asked, and I think Chris is out at Callide, which is you fished as well, but
Yep.
you know the Wonga boys will be watching as well for it. So,
mate, there's a few different options you've got there. Like for me, those Xeric live mullets, I think they are 5.5 inch long. They've just been killing it for me. They're just like a little bony brim. Matty Fraser's swim bait also. Like I know that the guide up there, Justin, really whacks the fish on them.
Well, I got given some of those the other day. So
so he kills the fish on them. Like I've never fished one up there. Matty gave me a few to take up, so I'll definitely be giving them a run next trip and comparing them to those Xerics just to see what the difference is. But those Xerics have been deadly, and hollow bellies, like they dominated the Barra scene there years ago, and then they came back out, and it's sort of been a bit slow to take off again. But I use a lot of hollow bellies when I'm up there because they re-released them, and those last couple of trips we did, we just alternated between the Xeric and the hollow belly on a half-ounce Baramba Barra jig-out, I think it's called, with a stinger underneath the belly on the hollow belly, and just between those two, we smashed them. If you were going to fish Callide, another one that's good while those fish are still hanging deep. Let me try and think. I'm hopeless. My memory is shocking. The swim bait that Dean Sylvester uses all the time. Come on, help me out here, guys. The Molex. Yeah, the Molex. Like we have had some fat sessions on those Molex shads up there. All sizes. The big ones get a little bit too heavy if the fish are sitting a bit shallow. So I think that one that I use is around about 140?
140, yeah.
140, I think, is the one that I use mostly there. If you find them out sort of down around the dam buoy, the buoy line at the dam wall, you could go to the bigger one and fish them a little bit deeper there because they tend to sit a bit deeper then. But that thermocline should be starting, as it cools down, it'll start to lift up. I don't know what it'll do, what those fish will do as it cools. I think we fished it this time last year and the fish was still in deep trees. We shot that AFN show there at Callide about this time last year, and they were still in deep trees, but just venturing up into the shallows for brief periods and then straight back out into deep water again. We'll find and fish in 20 to 60 feet. That's how deep they were, suspended in the treetops.
Yeah. So this one here, I know I've got so many questions, so I might have to get you to maybe, if you have time, Jace, answer them like as through the feed and everything. But this one I want to know as well is because like you do a few bass tournaments and different things. Do you reckon that you would ever come to one of our fishing freshwater events with the family and fish in the team?
Yeah, I think we could. Yeah, it's the same as the ABT. It really depends on my work nowadays. So just trying to line up a weekend that doesn't conflict to that. But with your comps, Andrew, they're sort of more weekend based. You don't fish the Friday, do you? Like you don't need to do a pre-fish day. You just rock up Saturday, Sunday.
No, you don't need to do a pre-fish day. You can rock up on Saturday and fish.
Yeah, no, we could do that. Yep, definitely.
Cool. Do we want to do some randomizers?
Yes, let's get a couple of draws out there.
Yeah, there is still so many questions, but and they're still filtering through, sort of thing. So,
can I ask Jason one question?
Of course you can, because I've got to do a randomizer for the Salty Gear shirt.
My question has a semi-introduction. I was introduced to your son at the Lure Expo a few years ago. The politest, most respectful young fellow I have come across for a teenager. However, his knowledge, engagement with the fishing industry has probably been pretty fortunate for most kids, that we having you as a dad. How do you, or what have you done different, do you think, that's brought him into the fishing industry positively, just with your experience in it, where other people could take a small snippet of how you've done it and maybe reproduce that themselves for getting a kid involved in fishing, getting their family involved in fishing? Because personally, I think you've been a very good example of engaging and dragging your kids into fishing with that.
As he was growing up, he sort of reached that age where he become a little bit more keen to do things. So, like, you know, when he was little, like all kids, he just wanted to eat all the food in the boat. So, you know, he'd eat his breakfast on the way to the dam, and then by the time you got to the dam, he wanted to eat the, you know, the morning tea and the lunch. So by lunchtime, you had no food left. You just had to go home. But as he grew up, he kind of started fishing a little bit harder, and I tried to teach him that fishing is all about rewards. So this took, like, it wasn't instant. Like, it took years, you know, like, and I probably, for 2 or 3 years, or probably 2 years at least, every time I hooked a fish, like a barra or something like that, or every time a fish was hooked that was worth pulling in, I handed the rod across to him and said, here you go, mate, you pull this in. But then as he started growing older, I made him work more and more for that privilege. So it just didn't come that easy. But he's a talented little bugger. I hope he's not listening.
Oh, he's listening. There's been a couple of comments.
Has he? Yeah. He's pretty talented. Like, even as a little kid, I remember we did a Mugara comp, and we were fishing on the spit there that runs out near the dam wall. And I'd been slogging away. He caught a fish, like, straight up. And then the fish were basically following my boat around. I was leading them around the whole point and trying all these different things on them, because bats follow boats, leading them around. And, you know, I've got theories on how to make them bite. So I played Pied Piper, I call it, a lot with my bass fishing, lead them around and try and change their mood and offer them different things. I just couldn't do anything this day. I just could not get it to work. And he caught his one fish, and he, a bit tired because he sat up too late talking to the guys or something the night before, slept for about 2 hours in the competition. Then he woke up, popped up and said, might have another cast. And he threw out, and first cast he pulled another fish. So his second keeper, I think, only had one. So he's a talented little bugger, but I think part of that was, like, kids, they wind slow. And a lot of times with soft plastics, you give a kid a soft plastic, it's the best thing to give them when they're young, because they just wind so slow. Like this thing, when we looked at it, I came home and looked, we've got a swimming pool just behind me here. It's the best investment you can ever have if you're a lure maker, a swimming pool, because you can see what things do and really break it down and work out why fish want to eat it. He was winding so slow that his slider, it wasn't a slider grub, it was a power bait ripple shad. The tail on that thing wasn't even paddling. It was just dragging along, dragging the mud. And it wasn't until that point where that lure was coming up off the bottom that the fish were actually eating it. It was those fish, we call it the magic 45 in my bait, like with bass fishing. Shouldn't be giving all these tips away, Marty. The magic 45 is the zone.
I'm loving it.
Yeah, no, the fish that sit underneath your boat, directly under you, they don't want to eat. But you get back to the magic 45, those fish are just that little bit more active, especially if they're just getting there. If you can time it, those big bulk fish, like talking about the Pied Piper, before they come and sit under your boat, if they're coming towards you to sit there and you sort of intercept them with your lure, they're always more willing to eat. So that's why we talk about the magic 45. And that's why kids, I think, catch so many fish on soft plastics. They just wind them dead slow. With the bass fishing, this is, wind them dead slow. That fish is just banging the bottom the whole way, basically. And then it starts to lift up in about that zone where it's about 45 degrees to the boat and starts actually rising back up to the boat and comes up through those fish that are sitting underneath you that are normally shut down. But they're winding so slow that they eat it. And then we try and do it. I've seen it so many times in kids comps, so like the Bass-tastics and Stessel. Remember the Stessel bass comps?
Yes, that would be.
All those sort of comps where kids used to fish too with their families, like with, you know, the dads and mums and stuff. And they'd sometimes catch the biggest fish of all, just because they were winding so slow.
They've got no preconceptions. That's the difference.
No,
they just throw it out and wind it back. Where that's what I was saying before. I reckon nowadays, I think sometimes we're all guilty of it. We overthink. You know, we overthink. I remember Gerald Swindle saying something. You know, here we are trying to catch a fish with a brain smaller than the fingernail on your little finger, and all that fish wants to do is eat. And yet we're worried about the tag end and we're worried about this. And, yeah, there's certain times when that will happen. But a lot of the times it's just throw it out and wind it back and keep it dumb and keep it simple, and it works. Where we overthink everything. And I'm guilty of it all the time, overthinking and doing this. Colours make a big difference, but it's just that, you know, as you say, kids, women, where they just throw it out and they just wind it back, and we're sitting there doing this and jaking and doing this different retrieves, and they're like, what are you doing? So I'll just throw it out and wind it back. That happens a lot, and you're dead right. It's 100%.
Yeah. No, so he was a pretty lucky kid. He got to catch a lot of fish. Like, I remember him, one time we went up to Faust. We just used to do a lot of trips up north. Back when I was a bit younger and had a bit more go in me, I'd knock off work, drive straight up to Mackay, and we'd go barra fishing, and then I'd, just go for 5 days, come home, go back to work. And we were up there, and he caught a metre 15 barra, I think it was. And he laid down on the deck next to it, and this thing was almost as long as him. Like, he would have, I don't know how old he was, but, geez, what's that? He was 11 when he caught that one. He must have been about 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And fought this thing in, and the next day we were out off Early Beach, and we just went, and we were having a bit of a cast and caught a couple of trout and stuff just around Chute Harbour, and we saw a few birds just working. So we went over and just trolled a few lures from him, and he's pulled like a metre 13 or something, a metre 11 cobia out from under these birds. So he's a lucky little bugger like that. He's got to catch so many fish, and I just, every time we hooked something good when he was at that age, I just used to let him pull it all in and really get a love for it and a passion for it and wanting to do it more.
No, it's a pretty cool thing, mate. That's for sure.
Yeah,
I've been through it. It's a very cool thing.
Yeah, if you weren't going out there and catching a few fish, it'd be pretty tough to get your kids to like it. So maybe even just go back to basics, like just take some shrimp. I used to do it with him, like when we were young. Just sometimes they won't bite. You drop a bloody shrimp down and have a ball. Just catch a heap of fish. That's what it's about, having fun.
No, sounds cool.
Catching the things.
How we going there, Trace?
Yeah, good. So, I've got some, I kind of want to know, what else we might be giving away tonight, just for the fact that I've got some, people that have asked some amazing questions and everything, and they've, in the randomizer thing, they've come up a couple of times, so I wasn't sure how many randomizer numbers I need to do.
Hey, Trace, I've got 2 lures. I give them away to one person. They're bigger lures. They're cod lures. They're the first ones out of the mould. So
special lures.
Cool. Because
lures.
I started with randomizing 2 people, and then I was like, I better check to see if there's anything more. So for the give me a second, let me go find. Okay, so for the salty gear, we've got the randomizer. So that is a shirt coming from a long sleeve shirt. So what happens is if you win this prize, contact Salty Gear Fishing Apparel. Tomorrow morning I will do a tag on Facebook so you could go to them. And that week's winner goes to Troy Yates in Tamworth.
Well done, Troy. You're going to love it, mate.
So
not much salty out there, but I'll tell you what, it'll be a good shirt. You'll love it.
Yes.
You look like Andrew.
Well, maybe, hopefully for you, is hair on your head, but you have the good shirt.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether Troy's got any hair on his head. He doesn't really have a big profile on his Facebook.
You stalk him yet? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I sure will.
Yeah, I do. I need to be able to tag him and find out where they're from and all that sort of stuff. And it says that he lives in Tamworth because it's good to find out where everyone's from. Now, the next randomizer, and that's for your hot white lures. Is that right, Jace?
Yeah.
Can be, yep.
Is that what you've got going? So that randomizer come through for a Nick Brown from Shepparton in Victoria.
Oh, how good's that? Perfect. He's going to love that.
Is it? Is that'll suit him?
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Big cod lure. So 1 ounce spinnerbait and a 1 ounce chatterbait with the big blade. And I've gone all out here. These are pretty flash ones. So 24 karat gold and everything's flash. Like the hook that's in them. They're $25 lures, so
that's a straight up smack thing, mate.
Absolutely brilliant. So
did you say they're straight out of the mould, Jace? Are you doing those lures now?
No, there is early ones.
No, these are brand newies. So I have been throwing them for a little while and catching fish on them, but this is a brand new mould.
Yep.
I don't know if I can't get it close enough.
Yeah,
you can see
that.
How pretty that is. And it's got my stingers on them, so you can easily change that plastic. Have a look at this. This is my stinger setup that I use on mine, so you can put your stinger hook on. Your plastic is really free and it can swing around on there, and that rarely ever tangles up with that setup with your stinger sitting back there. So they come with all that on them, and I'm just going to do those. I haven't set it up yet. I'm being a bit slack, but through all this COVID stuff, I decided to just sell a few things, mainly merchandise, but maybe a few spinnerbaits and chatterbaits on a website, which I'm still in the process of setting up. But, mate, you'll be getting the first ones to go out.
How cool is that, eh? That's awesome. Well done, mate. Thanks for that.
So
no one else
for
can get them
that,
until it's all set up.
Yeah, for that for that Nick, I should say Nick Brown, we'll get you to contact Jace on Hot Bite Fishing directly. If you're not sure where you're going tomorrow morning, I'll do a tag to say announce the winners and everything.
Thanks,
So
Grace.
that's our 2 randomizer. Is there anything else, boys?
Anything else, guys? Any other questions? Is there no more questions? Oh, there's thousands.
There is. Good? I have to say there is.
No, I think we're done. I think we've been an awesome, mate. Look, Jace from the 3 Amigos, mate, done a stellar job. We are really happy to have you on board. It was awesome. Hopefully we can get you back. Maybe if we don't, we can go and do this bit of a comp. Hopefully in a few weeks' time that we'll be able to do that. One thing I will say on behalf of just this is with myself, guys, this weekend I've been involved in a lot of the stuff behind the scenes, obviously with opening dams and doing stuff in my other roles. Please do not stuff this up.
Yes.
Please do not stuff this up. There will be people out there from behalf of myself and Jason and everyone else in the fishing industry. They've given us a little bit of a leeway. If we stuff it up, they will take us away, and the only people you can blame is yourself. So all the other stuff that goes on Facebook, we don't care about it. So, guys, respect the 50Ks. If you can't go fishing, that's fine. In a few weeks, a month's time, whatever it'll be, we'll all be able to get back to normal, and we won't have to do any of this crap that we're doing all now. So it's a long weekend, but on behalf of the 4 of us here,
yes,
guys, just do the right thing. We will see you next weekend where we have a couple of really special guests. We've got to nail a couple of guys down. One's from up north and maybe one's from Brisbane. We've got to see which one we can get, but it'll be a great show. A special thanks from us and all our guys. Jason, mate, you've done a lot of great effort.
Yep.
You've been an awesome guy, and what you've done in the industry is sensational. And from us, guys, we're over and out, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Wonderful.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right, boys, as usual, stay online with me, and we will say all our farewells.